Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I've got an extra special treat joining me in the Hit Lab today. Somebody I've been extremely excited to bring on the show, and somebody that I'm proud to call one of my great friends, folks. Check it out. All right, he is one of the most sought after faith-driven culture strategists, speakers, authors, and community leaders in the country. He's also the president of YMG Enterprises. All right, folks, he has dedicated his life to inspiring joy, purpose, and transformation in others. My man, Derek Young, we call him DY around here in these parts, folks. DY, thanks for hanging, baby.
Nick, I am fired up to be here. I'm so excited to be a part of the Hitstreak in the Hit Lab. I know we're going to have a great time.
First hit of the day, baby. We're batting 1,000.
Yes,
Here
sir.
we go. Well, I don't know if y'all can tell, but I'm feeling extra good today. You know what I'm saying? I think it's just because you're in the room. I feel like that's a thing.
I like that, brother. That's what you want. You want your energy to positively impact people everywhere you go. Whether you're in the Hit Lab, in a grocery store, that's what you want, so I'm excited.
All right, so I introduced you as one of the most sought-after faith-driven culture strategists, speakers, and authors and community leaders in the country, right? And where I first learned about you was your work from stage as a keynote speaker.
Yeah.
Those big corporations and companies, they love old DY. They love old DY.
You know, Nick, what I think about is an experience I had at Tractor Supply. Number one in its niche in farm and ranch sales. And I was doing a keynote for them at their corporate office in Tennessee. And at the end of the keynote, I had a woman approach me and she said, DY, I just want to tell you something. She said, the message you gave today from your book, Make My Hindsight Your 2020. She said, it's the first time in my life that I have actually felt that I could take control of my own career and my own future. She said, this is literally the first time in my life, and she said, I've had a good life and a good career, that I really realized that you just gave me steps that I can apply to have success in every area of my life. She said, I am going to be a better leader. She said, I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to be a better wife and a better mother. So that for me, Nick, that's what it's all about. That's the whole game in a nutshell.
Well, it's like, that's how, at the end of the day, the feedback is everything, both the good and the ways to get better, right? And but when you go off and do something for a reason, for a purpose, and then you find out that it actually worked, it makes it all worth it.
You just said it, brother. Somebody asked me recently, they said, when did you know you were a keynote speaker? When did you know you had this ability to help people go to the next level? And I said, well, looking back, I can tell you where it really kicked off. My first job, 14 years old, I was a junior in high school because I started high school at 12. So I'm a 14-year-old high school junior, and I'm working at St. Louis University High School in the Upward Bound program.
Okay.
We had a kid, Nick, and his first name was Lindsay. I can't remember his last name, but his first name was Lindsay, and he could not add negative numbers. He couldn't figure it out.
Okay.
So the full-time math teacher who taught couldn't get it across. My counterpart, my fellow student who was also a counselor, who was the aide in that class, couldn't get. So they just said, send him to DY. Maybe he can figure something out. Man, I sat this kid down in the library of our high school, and I don't remember what I did, but Nick, when I taught him how to add those numbers, there was a gleam in his eye that I will never forget. And that's basically, man, what I'm trying to recreate every time I'm on stage.
Wow. It took me a while to kind of figure out my voice. Some days when I was taking the stage, I'd feel good. Some days it took me a while to get warmed up when I was out there.
Right.
And I was able to realize a lot of similarities in sports. A lot of times as a baseball player, I might give up the first at bat because I just wasn't dialed in and ready.
Right.
And it's like, all right, well, I got to fix that. But as a coach in sports, one of the most important things you got to do is you got to make sure everybody's aligned in the vision and,
That's right.
and knows what's on the line today, and that famous "go get them for the Gipper" speech.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the way that I used to prepare for the team is the way that now I've learned to prepare to take the stage as a keynote speaker. And I'm like in infancy stages compared to where you're at with your experience on it. So I'm looking to learn a lot from you today.
You know what I would say to that is when you think about a speech, just actually get rid of the word speech and make it a conversation. And every conversation you have, think about it. You want to be genuine, right? You want to be relatable. You want to acquiesce. To me, it's one of the most underutilized words in America. And acquiesce simply means I want to talk to you based on what I know about you. So everything I say is designed based on my understanding of how you see the world, right? So what I find is a great keynote is a keynote where that person in the audience feels like, yeah, that dude is talking to me. That's my situation, right? And I think when people kind of boil it down and not make it, I'm doing a keynote, I'm doing a presentation, and they take all the pomp and circumstance and just make it like me and you right now, just two dudes rapping, two dudes talking.
Yeah.
It just helps the audience connect with the core message. That's what I found.
So you didn't know I was going to go this direction. However, I think it does need to be said, because based on what we're just talking about, how, players prepare for games certain ways, keynote speakers do the same things.
Right.
Some guys like to work out real hard before they take the stage and so on and so forth. But this kind of bleeds into how that everybody else in the world presents themselves. Okay, So here's what I'm talking about. So I'm bringing like endless amount of folks into this building on a regular basis. Dale up front, he books meetings with me and all the different shapes and sizes and types of people on earth. Okay. Right. And over time, when there's only so many meetings you can take in a day. So obviously you want to begin to get better at setting more quality meetings with quality people that are more in line with what you're trying to do right now.
That's right.
So, 50 meetings in a week that you can't do anything with at the end of the day it's either an investment or a waste. Right. So Dale and I have, again, he's one of my gatekeepers.
Right.
All right. It's one of his jobs is to make sure I'm spending time with people I should be spending time with. And this is something that like I'm really leaning on you to help me figure out today, because this is something as a brand builder that I'm always working with people to figure out. Some folks, when Dale has limited interaction with them, he'll come back to the back and he'll be like, that guy or that lady, that person really has their stuff together.
Right.
Versus somebody else where there might be some doubt in that.
That's real.
Off of the same, let's just say 5 to 7 minute conversation.
Yep.
You were one of those people that after the first conversation, that gentleman was polished, I think was the exact words that he used. That's a polished guy right there. Right. Like, because again, we're in partnerships with a lot of people, which means there's a lot of information and interaction happening in both directions. And we always do good on our part, but not everybody's good on theirs.
That's fair.
It's a learning thing. Dude, we didn't have that problem with you. It was so easy making for Dale to do what he needed to do with you to get things booked.
That's awesome.
All right. What's the difference in the people that are polished versus not polished?
That's really rich. So, Nick, what I tell any client I'm getting ready to work with for a keynote, I tell them at the end of the year, if your boss, your supervisor, your VP, your president, if they were to ask you, who was the easiest person to work with all this year? I want you to say, man, that Derek Young, man, that dude is just easy to work with, right? I think for me, I teach a lot on security versus insecurity.
Okay.
And I always say, Nick, if you had to get a job and you had two people you could choose from, and one was incompetent and one was insecure, but you had to work for one of them, I'd pick incompetent every time. I think when people have a certain level of security, not perfect, not I'm better than everybody else, but just a basic, I'm good with me, I'm good with who I am. I think that sets a certain stage when you meet somebody. And then secondly, similar to what I said before, when you show up with an interest in other people, and Dale and I hit it off. That's the other thing. We just kind of in the same age group, some of the same values I could tell. But when your focus is not on yourself, but your focus is on what kind of energy are we creating here together, the both of us in this interaction, I think what that does is it helps people relax. I think it helps people feel safe, which to me is one of the greatest things you can do. And I think the other part of it too is I'm kind of old school maybe with style and appearance, right? My mother told me I never met my grandfather. on my mom's side. He died before I was born. But my mom said, boy, one thing you got from your granddaddy is that's you like to dress, right? And I just think your attire says a lot about who you are.
Yeah.
But it ought to be attire that you enjoy. You're not dressing for other people. You're dressing in a way that you really like it. And for me, I hope obviously that comes across.
DY, I'm amazed at how, like, you know, so many things. First of all, confidence is a skill, and it's a lot of times it's based on, you know, a memory of a previous success. Right. However, you know, the more disciplined I am with the things that I measure at home, whether it be working out with my kid, time spent with my kids and wife, what I ate, what I put in my body, a lot of my, like, if I got to spend the amount of time I wanted to with my family, took care of everybody at work, ate what I knew I was supposed to eat, got my workout in, the next day I got all the confidence in the world.
Right.
It just is what it is, versus the day where I'm like, you know, I didn't earn these donuts, but they're here. I don't want them to go to waste, so I'm going to eat them. And then the next day, I'm not as confident as I would have been had I not eaten them, because there's that subconsciously, there's that small piece of doubt in there because I know that I didn't do what I knew I should do. So I almost feel like a fraud a little bit.
You know what I think you're saying, Nick, is when we keep promises to other people, that makes us feel a certain way because of how those other people see us. But when we keep promises to ourselves, that's life at the top of the mountain, right? Because you can never get away from yourself. And no matter what it is, when you say, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I need to do, this is what's best for me, when you keep that promise to you, it's a motivator, man. It really helps you go forward.
Dude, like, you know, and self-talk, all the greatest at everything reference self-talk, and
That's
how
right.
positive self-talk is, it affects your mindset. Your mindset is built up of the thoughts that you have.
That's right.
Right. And the more conscious thoughts you can have about where you're speaking good into the world about yourself and
That's
your
right.
abilities,
Yep.
the better things are. So as a raising a teenage boy, this is, oh man, and I'm on it all the time. I'm like, you know, so he's time blocking. And, you know, let's say he on his sheet, he's going to wake up at 8 a.m. and he sleeps till 8:30, right? Well, what I'm trying to instill in him is, hey, man, like as a baseball player, you're standing in the box, 2 outs in the 7th inning, winning runs on second base. And you're in the box and you're telling yourself, I got it. Right. I got this, I got this, I got this. Well, your brain don't know if you're telling the truth or not because you told it you were going to get up at 8 and you didn't.
That's a good example.
You know what I mean? You said you weren't going to eat those cookies and you did. Just like when Nick said, I was going to eat better, and then I ate them donuts.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's almost like how authentic. I think you're only going to be as authentic to others as you are to yourself.
Yep. You know what, Nick? I was doing a keynote. This has been years ago. This is in the early 90s. And I was speaking to 1,000 young people from all across North Carolina. It was a youth leadership event. And I made a statement. Don't remember what it was, but it led one of the kids in the front row to raise his hand. And I said, yeah. He goes, Mr. Young, I get the sense you don't like rap music. And I said, no, I don't dislike rap. I said, I just don't like some of the, what I would call negative rap. Mm-hmm. I said, now listen,
messaging.
I said, listen, I realize those guys are rapping about their reality.
Yeah.
They're rapping about things that have happened. I said, but all I would ask you to think about, and if I could ever have an audience with them, I would say, is there anything more vile, evil, wicked than slavery in America? I said, but here's the interesting thing. There's 1,000 kids. Mm-hmm. I said, if anybody in this auditorium can name me one song written by enslaved people about slavery, I'll give you $1,000.
Wow. Dude.
Every song they sang was about freedom, hope, a brighter tomorrow. I said, there's a possibility. What if they had only sang about what was happening to them that was bad, that was horrible? So when you talked about the self-talk, man, I'm sitting here. I am literally sitting in your studio because of self-talk. When I was 12 years old, I told you I started high school. I had a kid who lived right up the street from me. Won't say his name because the world is small. Let's just say Kevin. And man, this guy dogged me out every day. I can't even repeat in public the stuff he used to say to me.
Yeah.
Because I was going to this school and you going out there and you think you're this and that. And that went on for 3 months solid. Nick, one day I was coming home. I had turned 13 and he was a month older than me. So he had turned 13. I was walking home and sure enough, he came out his screen door. There goes Derek Young, man. You think you this. And you remember Popeye the Sailor? Remember how Popeye would say, that's all I can stand. I can't stand no more, right?
Yep.
Man, I dropped my books and I ran across the street right in his face. And he backed up like I was going to hit him. Nick, this came out of me. I hadn't rehearsed it. I hadn't thought about it. I said, look here, Kevin, you and I are the same age. How about we do this, bruh? When you're 30 years old and when I'm 30 years old, let's come back to this spot. You show me what you've done. I'll show you what I've done. And I walked off. Nick, at 30, I was marrying a sister from Spelman College in Vanderbilt, and he was in jail.
Wow. Wow.
So when you start talking about talking, self-talk, man, I'm with you.